In the stillness that settles just before the newsroom comes alive, Craig Melvin often feels the quiet contrast between the calm of the early hour and the emotional weight he knows the day may bring. Because for decades he has stood at the center of breaking news, translating chaos into clarity for millions, while quietly carrying the human cost of witnessing history's hardest moments unfold in real time. And for those now in their 60s who have spent long careers absorbing responsibility, this tension feels deeply familiar. Craig's face has become synonymous with steadiness, a reassuring presence during national crises, natural disasters, and personal tragedies that ripple across the country. Yet beyond the headlines lies a man shaped by the accumulation of stories that never fully leave him, stories that linger long after the cameras power down. And standing beside him through this life is his wife, Lindsay Charniak, a journalist who understands not only the demands of the profession, but the emotional residue it leaves behind. Together, they inhabit a world where the line between professional duty and personal life is often blurred, where dinner conversations are interrupted by breaking alerts, and where the emotional tone of the day's news can quietly seep into moments meant for rest, reflection, and connection. For an audience in their 60s, many of whom remember years of carrying work stress home while trying to shield loved ones from its weight, Craig and Lindsay's journey reflects a shared generational truth. The dedication to one's calling often comes with unseen sacrifices. Craig has built his career on empathy and credibility, qualities that require him to lean in emotionally rather than detach. And while viewers may see composure, what they don't see is the quiet processing that follows stories of loss, injustice, and uncertainty, the moments when the anchor must reconcile professional objectivity with personal humanity. Lindsay, having lived that same reality in her own career, recognizes the subtle signs, the silences, the fatigue behind the smile, the need for grounding after a day spent holding space for the nation's grief. And in those moments, their partnership becomes less about words and more about presence, about understanding without explanation. Aging brings a sharper awareness of emotional limits, and for public figures whose roles demand constant engagement with the world's troubles, this awareness can be both sobering and clarifying. And Craig's evolution over the years reflects a growing wisdom about boundaries, about knowing when to step back, when to listen, and when to allow vulnerability to coexist with strength. For viewers who have reached a stage of life where reflection outweighs ambition, there is something deeply resonant in watching someone acknowledge that resilience is not infinite, that even the most composed professionals must find ways to replenish themselves. Beyond the headlines, Craig is a husband, a father, a man navigating the same questions that face many in their 60s, questions about legacy, balance, and how to remain engaged without becoming consumed. And Lindsay's role in this journey underscores the importance of shared understanding, of having a partner who does not need the headlines explained because she has lived them too. Together, they have learned that breaking news does not pause for personal milestones or quiet evenings, yet they have also learned to carve out moments of normalcy, recognizing that sustaining a life in journalism requires intentional care for the relationships that make that life meaningful. For an older audience that has seen industries change, news cycles accelerate, and public discourse grow louder, their story offers a reminder that behind every authoritative voice delivering the facts is a human being absorbing their impact, carrying them forward in ways that are rarely acknowledged. Craig's journey illustrates that professionalism does not erase emotion, it channels it, in that the true challenge of a long career in news is not learning how to speak calmly in a crisis, but learning how to live fully despite repeated exposure to the world's hardest truths. Lindsay's steady presence reflects a partnership built not just on love, but on mutual respect for the weight each carries, reinforcing the idea that shared experience can deepen connection rather than diminish it. As the years pass and the urgency of youth gives way to the perspective of experience, Craig's approach to his work has become less about urgency for its own sake and more about meaning, about telling stories with care while preserving the inner life that allows him to keep showing up with integrity. For those watching who are navigating retirement, redefining purpose, or simply reflecting on decades of responsibility, his story affirms that it is possible to honor one's calling without losing oneself to it, and that the human side of breaking news is not a weakness, but a quiet strength.
Ultimately, beyond the headlines and the polished delivery lies a life shaped by empathy, endurance, and partnership. And in sharing that unspoken reality, Craig Melvin and Lindsay Charniak offer a powerful, reassuring message to a generation that understands all too well that the most important stories are not the ones that make the news, but the ones we carry within us as we learn over time how to keep going with compassion and grace.